Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy previews are making more card prices jump this week, and some reserve list cards are heating up too. All this and more in the latest episode of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. This video is sponsored by Flipside Gaming. Check out flipsidegaming.com for all your gaming needs. Right now, you can order Tarky or Dragonstorm, pre-order Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy, or find a vast number of other great items on their website. Remember, shipping is free in the US if your order is over $100 or consists only of singles. Just look in the description or comment section below for direct links to their site. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. As I said in the cold open, Final Fantasy previews are again the biggest factor driving card prices this week, but that's not all that's going on. The general increase in interest caused by Final Fantasy is breathing new life into a lot of cards in the secondary market, including some on the reserve list. This time we're going to be looking at 10 cold cards, which are moving down in price, but instead of our normal 10 hot cards, we have 15 cards moving up due to the increased market activity. As always, our lists are based on two pieces of criteria: the percentage change in the value of the cards, as well as the change in the number of sales from week to week. We'll quickly look at the cold cards and then spend a little more time on the cards moving up in price. Quickly before we get started, I do want to say thank you to one of our gold patrons, and that is Marcos Ong. Marcos, thank you so much for your support on Patreon. It truly helps the channel a ton. Could not do this without viewers like yourself, so thank you, Marcos. And now, without any further ado, let's get into it. We'll begin with the top 10 coldest cards of the week. Several cards that were spiking aggressively last week because of Final Fantasy previews are already retracting some in an attempt to find their correct price points. This is not unusual. When cards jump, it is very common for sellers to list more copies of these cards, leading to an increase in inventory, which satisfies some of the demand. Alright, let's get started with number 10, Court of Embereth, down $1.11 this week to $3.51. That's a 24% decrease. This is one of the Wilds of Eldraine commander cards that you could find in set boosters. Number 9, Storm the Vault, down $1.14 to $8.31. That's a 12% decrease. Number 8, Virtue of Persistence, down $1.26 to $7.26. That's a 15% decrease. Number 7, Surak and Goreclaw, down $1.60 to $8.20. That's a 16% decrease. Number 6, Sway of the Stars, down $1.63 to $16.06. That's a 12% decrease. This was one of the cards that was recently unbanned in Commander. It jumped back when that happened, but retracting some now. This was number 5 on our hot list last week. This week it arrives at number 5 on the cold list. It is Inventory Management, down $1.95 to $7. That's a 22% decrease. This is from the Fallout Scrappy Survivors Commander deck. It was spiking mostly because of the upcoming Final Fantasy Limit Break Commander deck and its front-facing Commander Cloud X Soldier. This week, more copies of Inventory Management hit the marketplace, leading to this retraction. Number 4, Vesuvan Doppelganger from Revised, down $2.67 to $16.58. That's a 14% decrease. A week ago, this was number 12 on the hot list. Last week, it came in at number 6, but this week it joins the cold list at number 3. Dogmeat Everloyal, down $4.03 to $5.70. That's a 41% decrease. This is the foil copy from the Fallout Scrappy Survivors Commander deck, and it too was hot because of Cloud X Soldier and the Final Fantasy Limit Break Commander deck. This was number 1 on the hot list last week. Now it's number 2 on the cold list, Blazing Shoal. The one from the list is down $3.23 to $13.24. That's a 20% decrease. The Betrayers of Kamigawa copy is down $4.70 to $13.94. That's a 25% decrease. This spiked aggressively last week due to its interaction with BB Ornithir from the Final Fantasy main set. Over the course of the week, lots of copies of this went up for sale, leading to this retraction. This one was number 4 on the hot list last week, but now it arrives on the cold list at the top spot. Number 1 is Moonmist. The Innistrad copy down $1.32 to $3.10. That's a 30% decrease. The one from the list is down $5.51 to $4.49. That's a 55% decrease. Moonmist was spiking last week because of various humans that transform into powerful things in the Final Fantasy main set. Like Blazing Shoal, lots of copies of this hit the marketplace over the course of the week. Even more so actually because Moonmist was a common in Innistrad. Alright, on to the main event. We're going to look at the 15 hottest cards of the week. I do have a couple honorable mentions at the end of the video, so make sure you stay tuned for those. But let's begin now with number 15, Falco Spara Pact Weaver, up 209 to 408. That's a 105% increase. This is actually a one of in modern 4-color midrange. However, Commander is the key driver behind the spike. Some players want to add this to the upcoming Final Fantasy Counterblitz Commander deck, while others want it for fresh builds around Unit Grand Summoner from there. Additionally, many will use Falco Spara Pact Weaver in conjunction with some of the new Saga creatures found in the Final Fantasy products. Cards like Summon Knights of the Round and Summon Titan from the main set, or Summon Valefor from the Counterblitz Commander deck, for example. Removing a lore counter from a Saga creature can frequently work to your benefit. Some players will use these new creatures in builds around Falco Spara Pact Weaver, but I would imagine that many will just put Falco in Tom Bombadil builds with several of these Saga creatures. But wait, there's more. Another card from the Final Fantasy main set is pushing Falco Spara Pact Weaver as well. That's Choco Seeker of Paradise. Many players are looking to build commander decks around Choco. In fact, Falco is not the only card spiking this week because of it. This was number 5 on the cold list last week. This week it rebounds and appears at number 14 on the hot list. Evereth, Viceroy of Plunder, up 236 to 998. That's a 31% increase. This is a very popular commander, and it can appear in the 99 of some builds too, like Edgar Markov or Prosper Tomebound, for example. Basically, when this card had its downturn last week, players and speculators noticed and copies started to dry up online. I even saw some content creators mentioning the price decrease, which may have brought more eyes to Evereth this week. Down 3 spots this week to number 13, Hidden Gibbons, up $3 to $15.17. That's a 25% increase. This one-print wonder gets a little commander play. Sometimes you see it in Kiba Uktabi Prince decks, for example. I suppose some might want to throw this into a commander deck, run a card from Final Fantasy, Terra Magical Adept. However, the key driver for Hidden Gibbons Spike is the pre-modern format. Control builds like Parallax Replenish have been very strong there, so many decks are now running Hidden Gibbons in their sideboards. You see it in sideboards of popular builds too, like Oath, Enchantress, Madness, and more. Coming in at number 12, Gyerson Starn Kellermorph, up 382 to 2532. That's an 18% increase. This is from the Warhammer 40k Tyrannid Swarm commander deck. It remains a very popular commander, and it's in the 99 of a few builds like Nekuzar the Mindraiser, for example. Now, however, there is a card from Final Fantasy that is pushing this. Some players are adding Gyerson to commander deck lists around VV Ornithir and vice versa. The two cards play extremely well together, especially with some enchantments with abilities that trigger when the enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent. Speaking of which, up 4 spots this week to number 11, Ophidian Eye from Time Spiral, up 388 to 1076. That's a 56% increase. This is the only wide release printing of the card, but there was a reprinted Mystery Booster too. That one is moving up as well, but there's not enough actual sales to determine by how much. Ophidian Eye currently gets some commander play in builds like Gyerson Starn Kellermorph and Niv Mizzet Perun. It's even received more play there recently, since some have been getting it to upgrade the Tarkir Dragonstorm Jeskai Striker commander deck, while others have been putting it in fresh builds around the front-facing commander from there, Shiko and Narset Unified. However, the key driver for Ophidian Eye's price spike is Final Fantasy previews. I'm already seeing players grabbing it for the upcoming Scions and Spellcraft commander deck, and others are putting it in new deck lists around the front-facing commander from there, Y'shtola Knight's Blast. Plus, as I alluded to a moment ago, I'm seeing Ophidian Eye in a lot of deck lists around a card from the main set, VV Ornithir. Quickly, before we hit the top 10, just a fast reminder, this video is sponsored by Flipside Gaming. Check out flipsidegaming.com for all your gaming needs. Right now, you can order Tarkir Dragonstorm products there. You can pre-order Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy products as well, or pick up any number of other great items on their website, Magic related or otherwise. Remember, for orders over $100 or consist only of singles, shipping will be free in the United States. And if you're looking for a direct link to their site, just check out the description or comment section below. I do have links posted in both of those places. And now, without any further ado, let's get to the top 10. Number 10, Contractual Safeguard, up $3.98 to $5. That's a 390% increase. This is from the Streets of New Capenna Bedecked Brokers commander deck. Currently, it gets a little commander play. Sometimes it's in builds around Perry the Pulverizer from its precon, for example. However, you guessed it, Final Fantasy cards are making this spike now. This will be a great upgrade for the upcoming Counter Blitz Commander deck, and some players are already adding it to early fresh deck lists around the front-facing commander from there, Tidus, Yuna's Guardian, and to a lesser degree around Yuna Grand Summoner from the build as well. Coming in at number 9, Frenetic Efreet. That's a name I have not heard in a long time. It is up 445 to 980 for an 83% increase. First off, this reserve list card does get a little pre-modern play in Frenetic Encounter. Over in Commander, it's in a Cone Eye of Chaos and Zender Split Eye of Wisdom partner decks, as well as Usuri Fortune's Flame builds, for example. However, Final Fantasy does have some cards that care about coin flips. Here's a couple: Edgar King of Figaro from the main set, and Setzer Wandering Gambler from the Revival Trans Commander deck. Setzer doesn't share color identity with Frenetic Efreet, but I suppose they both could be in a Silas Wren Secret Adept and Krark the Thumbless partner commander deck, although I do think that Frenetic Efreet's price increase is mostly due to speculation and might be the start of a buyout attempt. There is a lot more activity around Reserve List and some other classic vintage Magic cards this week. Seems like now that the game is gaining momentum again, the vintage market is starting to show new life. Number 8, Soul Catcher's Aerie, the Judgment copy of 419 to 565, that's a 287% increase. The one from the list of 526 to 669, that's a 368% increase. This is currently in a few commander builds like Kestrel the Wing-Crested and Soraya the Falconer, for example, but I bet you know why this is moving up now. Players want a copy to put in their upcoming commander builds around Choco Secret Paradise from Final Fantasy. Number 7, Zamriel Seraph of Steel. Up 641 to 1386, that's an 86% increase. This only comes in foil, and it is a difficult card to find since it has only been printed in the Magic Game Night Free-for-All product. It currently doesn't see consistent commander play in any particular build, but some players and speculators are interested in this because of Final Fantasy. The thought is that it might be a worthwhile upgrade to the Limit Break commander deck, or something useful for fresh builds around the front-facing commander from there, Cloud X Soldier. Up 6 spots this week to number 6, Vile Consumption, up $9.08 to $13, that is a 232% increase. This one-print wonder has seen a small amount of commander play. Sometimes it would appear in Aloro Ageless Ascetic builds, for example. However, now there's new interest in this thanks to Final Fantasy, and the price is moving up. Some players wanted to upgrade the upcoming Scions and Spellcraft commander deck, while others are planning on adding it to fresh builds around Y'shtola Knights Blessed from there. Coming in at number 5 is Sigil of Sleep, the Urza's Destiny copy of 508 to 729, that's a 230% increase. The dual decks Venser vs. Koth copy is up 1287 to 1499, that is a 607% increase. This currently sees a little commander play. Sometimes it's in Gyrson Starn Kellermorph, for example. Now though, like most cards on the hot list, it is moving up because of Final Fantasy previews. Some want this to upgrade the Scions and Spellcraft commander deck, while others are grabbing it for fresh builds around Y'shtola Knights Blessed from there. However, even more players are getting Sigil of Sleep to use with VV Orniteer. This is true both in commander decks around VV as well as with VV and Gyrson Starn Kellermorph builds. Number 4, Powder Keg from Urza's Destiny, of 1349 to 4348, that's a 45% increase. This occasionally sees some sideboard play in Legacy, but Pre-Modern has been the key driver recently for this reserve list card. There it appears in many sideboards, and occasionally a copy even makes it into a main deck. You see it in highly played builds like Stiflenaught, Tide Control, Landstill, Stasis, and more. Perhaps the increased attention on reserve list cards may be playing a role here too, but Powder Keg is a legit playable card regardless. Number 3 is Intuition from Tempest, of $21.63 to $194.97, that's a 12% increase. Here's another reserve list card, maybe moving in part because it's on the list, but this actually gets a lot of play in more than one format. I do believe that's the main reason it's spiking. This is in Legacy Omnitel. Meanwhile, in Pre-Modern, it's in the highly played Parallax Replenish decks, and it's part of some other builds too, like Psychotog, for example. On top of that, Intuition is all over 1v1 dual commander. You see it in huge builds there, like Lear, Disciple of the Drowned, and Aragorn, King of Gondor, among others. Currently, Intuition is found in several regular commander decks as well. And of course it's appearing in new deck lists around a few Final Fantasy cards. First and foremost, I'm seeing it on some VV Orniteer deck lists, And to a lesser degree, Intuition is on lists around Noctis, Prince of Lucis, also from the main set, and Emmett Salcha the Third Seat from the Scions and Spellcraft Commander deck. Coming in at number 2, Sig River Cutthroat. The copy from the Zendikar Rising Sneak Attack Commander deck is up 544 to 799, that's a 213% increase. The Shadowmoor copy is up 974 to 1273, that's a 326% increase. And the one from the list is up $21.97 to $25, that's a 725% increase if you're doing the math at home. This card gets 1v1 dual commander play in a few builds. One example is the Silas Wren Seeker Adept and Yoshimaru Ever Faithful partner decks. Sig River Cutthroat does see regular commander play in some different builds too, like Jana Renik's Shattered One and Anawan the Rune Thief. However, you know why this is moving up now. Players and speculators are interested in Sig because it will be a good upgrade to the Final Fantasy Scions and Spellcraft Commander deck, plus it will also be great in fresh builds around Y'shtola Knight's Blessed from there. And finally, coming in at number 1 is Goblin Wizard of $65.17 to $126.97, that's a 105% increase. This does see a little commander play at times in Goblin builds like Krenko Mob Boss, but someone call 2021 because this is a good old-fashioned reserve list buyout. Copies have disappeared, the price has spiked, now we just wait for them to be sold back to the market and for the price to go back down. Finally, I did want to mention 2 cards that are moving up, but didn't make our list today because of some inconsistencies in the sold prices for the different printings. They are Allosaurus Rider and Keeper of the Nine Gales. In particular, the Cold Snap copy of Allosaurus Rider and the Legion's copy of Keeper of the Nine Gales have taken off. Allosaurus Rider is heating up because of the recent resurgence of the Neo brand deck in Modern, and of course Keeper of the Nine Gales is getting attention because of Choco's Seeker of Paradise from Final Fantasy. Definitely keep an eye on those 2 cards this week. Alright, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. Very interesting week. Final Fantasy bringing a lot of new players to the game. A lot of old players back too. I saw a lot of names I haven't seen in a long time in our comments section last week. Anyway, we'll be back next week. Until then, hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.